Welcome to The Read Along,
a mini book club for your ears.
I'm your host, Scott.
I'm your other host, Anita.
And join us on a journey through a good book,
one chapter at a time.
Do you like talking about movies? Do you like talking about mediocre movies? Do you like talking about how you could have fixed mediocre movies? Well, I certainly do, and you can listen to me, Scott C. Bourgeois, along with my co-hosts Greg Beaver and Liam Creswick, as we give our notes in I Have Some Notes. You can follow it now on your podcatcher of choice or support it by visiting patreon.com/I Have Some Notes. So you went to a fancy party on the weekend?
I did. I got invited to a surprise 50th birthday party.
Yeah.
And it was swanky.
And like full-on surprise party.
Oh yeah, like she was very surprised. Did not see it coming. It was great.
And apparently it was, as you said, quite swanky.
Indeed. We were greeted with champagne with strawberry.
And like an endless charcuterie.
Oh my goodness. They just kept bringing out more plates of food, and it was all delicious and fancy, and there was this very elaborate, fancy gourmet cake that was absolutely delicious. We had a lovely time.
Yeah, I wasn't invited.
No, it was a ladies' thing.
It was a ladies' only thing, so I did not get to partake. But you did bring home some snacks.
I brought home
like
a heavy box of charcuterie for you.
Apparently, the owner came out toward the end of the night and was like, if I bring out some like takeout boxes, you guys will pack it up and take some of this home, right?
Oh, there were a bunch of us were like, yes, absolutely, 100%.
So much food, apparently.
It was so much food.
So
it was delicious.
I did get to partake a little, even if I wasn't at the fancy party.
Mm-hmm. And dessert. You got an extra dessert brought home.
That's true.
Yeah.
It was nice. But yeah, so that's what you've been up to. I had a pretty cash weekend myself.
Well, you got to hang out with the kids by yourself one night while your wife went out to a party.
Yeah.
Good times.
Good times. But other than that, not really much to report. Good news is plenty of time to read the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we did, and we will get into the next chapter. But first, a brief recap of our previous chapter, chapter 10, in which...
we meet the curator.
Indeed. Mia picks up Dani in her canary-colored Mini Cooper.
I love it so much.
They go off to meet the curator, have a little talk, and catch up in the car on the way there. We find out a little bit about Mia's love life. We meet the curator. They get the things they need for Dani to make a proper forgery of Archer's portrait, and Archer's portrait goes weird and crazy in her memory.
Yeah, things get all mystical and creepy for a little bit.
Yeah, and that's still sitting on Dani as she makes her way to the Hackworth residence as we move into Chapter 11 of The Frame-Up by Gwenda Bond. Dani shows up like casual, jeans, t-shirt, and with sunflower in tow.
Yeah.
Because she's trying to like shake off the weirdness from earlier and wants to like be comfortable.
That too. Also, like, of course she has to go back there, like, she has to go to work, you know? Like, quote unquote, work.
But today she's also not like appearing in front of the press or
exactly.
doing anything like formal, so she can be dressed down.
Exactly. She has no reason to get fancy pants today. And also she's trying to alter her image ever so subtly so that she doesn't stand out anymore.
Brad doesn't take umbrage with it. He does note her changed hair color and is totally normal about it, unlike Elliott a few chapters ago.
Got weird about it.
And she basically says, like, hey, my picture was in the newspaper. I was worried that was going to attract too much attention because of my background. So I thought, like, a little change might help. And Brad totally understands. It's like, no, I get it. I apologize for the newspaper thing. I wasn't thinking either. But Rose wanted to do a big media thing. And seeing as I was already in her face about doing the auction in the first place, it seemed like an easy bone to throw her.
Yeah.
And
without thinking that it might be a bad idea.
Didn't think it was a bad idea at the time. So I apologize. I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that. She's like, no big deal. Everything's cool. By the way, I've invited my assistant to come today. And Brad's like, you're who now?
She's like, no, I've got an expert. He's coming to assist.
Yeah, so she basically lays it out. She explains that he's her like tech expert. who she goes to whenever she's dealing with high-tech security systems. And she had noticed a few, like, deficiencies in the security that she wanted to shore up before the actual auction. And she also, like, in the back of her mind is like, this will also make it seem like I'm doing my job.
Yes, bringing in an expert to make things more secure.
Yeah, Brad's like, well, he'll have to still pass the security test, and
Obviously.
and Dani's like, no, I totally get it. He'll be showing up with his papers. You can get that all verified, but he is on his way. And Brad's like, so you're surprising me with that, and I've also got a surprise for you.
And all of it sucks.
And
Everything sucks.
And it's bad because the FBI caught wind of this, and they're going to be here too. And Dani's like, oh no.
Not just anybody from the FBI, though.
Oh no, she knows exactly who's going to be showing up.
Of course. It's Agent Sharp.
Yep.
The agent who talked her into betraying her mother in the first place.
Yeah, because he's one of the team leads for like the anti-art theft squad in the FBI. So of course he's going to be there. And she's thinking he must be close to retirement.
At this point.
But she also knows that he probably can't resist keeping an eye on her.
Right?
Because of the situation. And so, yeah. She's not at all surprised, but is also dismayed because that's just an additional hurdle that she's now going to have to overcome.
Yes.
To complete this already impossible heist.
Mm-hmm. And then Brad throws just one more at her because things aren't bad enough. We need to make it worse. The ex-wives are now throwing a gala.
Yeah.
The night before the auction.
So the Fortress of Art is going to be full of people the night before the auction. A security nightmare.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just bad upon bad. And Dani's like, oh boy.
I wrote in my notes, I'm like, the hits just keep on coming.
Yep. Dani plays professional, plays cool, and is just like, look, we'll just roll with all these issues. Like, this is just how it's going to be.
Yep. So then Elliott rolls up as Emmett.
Yes, in a borrowed Mercedes. She actually, for a moment, thinks it's the FBI agent rolling.
Right? Because of the car?
But then Elliott steps out and immediately, like, tries to big dog Brad.
Ugh.
And Brad's like, what is happening? And Dani's like, oh, God, Elliott. Like, way to be a mature adult.
It's so funny to watch her roll her eyes at the ego games that are happening around her between these two.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me just wanted to say to Elliott, like, I think you're doing it wrong. You want him to like you, not hate you. Or maybe he does. I don't know.
But maybe that's also a smart play by Elliott because Brad's like a rich guy, right? Like, he seems to be a nice dude. But he's also very rich. He's used to rolling in, like, amongst a business crowd. So Elliott showing up and being, like, a business shark right out the gate might kind of work in his favor here. I mean, it might sell the illusion of what he's trying to pass himself off as.
Yeah, and I thought of that, too, that offering another distraction for Brad might be helpful.
Yeah, even if Dani's initial reaction is, oh, he's being jealous of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's how it kind of comes across for her. And we're in her perspective. So
yeah, I know.
Hard to say.
Either way, there's a lot of eye rolling and like, oh, God.
Elliott does immediately put on the charm as well as soon as they get to the Fortress of Art and Rose shows up to meet them.
Oh, it works on Rose so well.
She is just instantly like, oh, who's this charming young man? And Elliott just plays right into that.
Absolutely.
Dani actually thinks that Brad was maybe hoping that Rose would not agree to hire him on. Like, so that he wouldn't have to be the one to turn down Dani about having her assistants there. But, like, by the end of the chapter, Rose is just totally on board with him and is like, nope, his resume is spotless. He seems to be an expert. He's so charming.
He's very nice.
We should absolutely hire him.
Well done, Elliott.
We also learn a little bit more about Elliott's power here.
Yeah.
Because we had been kind of speculating what his ability might be based on some cryptic comments from Dani earlier. Mm-hmm. But it turns out what his actual special ability is that he can find things. If he knows what he's looking for and he's in proximity to it,
he can find it.
He knows where it is. Which is why earlier in the book, when she mentioned she had come back into town and he should know that, he should.
Yeah.
Because he knows her.
He would, yes.
He would know where she is if she's close by. And he demonstrates that power in this chapter by, like, identifying some spots where there's security cameras, just like, oh, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there.
Yeah, because he knows what he's looking for.
Yeah, a useful skill to have in somebody when you're casing a joint.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and looking for something for which to steal. I wonder what his proximity is.
Good question. Close enough, one would presume that Dani showing up in town would have pinged him.
Yeah.
That's certainly her feeling.
Right.
So,
is it because she's a person? Or, like, if he was searching for something small, would he have to be closer to it?
maybe. Probably never loses his keys.
See, if I had magic, I would do a whole bunch of science on it. I'd want to know.
What the limits are?
Yeah. Like, how far away does this need to be before you can find it?
Maybe they have, and he does know.
Maybe.
Something they might have explored when they were younger.
So Rose sweeps away with Emmett to go check his paperwork. And Dani tries to get a little more information out of Brad.
Yeah.
Very casually.
Yeah, she does a little bit of probing.
Yeah. And I feel like I was almost misdirected here because she's trying to find information on Brad's father, Hackworth Sr., right? But he clearly does not want to talk about that.
Yeah, it's a sore point with him, and so he's not exactly keen to go into detail.
Yeah. So instead what we get is actually a little bit more about Brad. So yeah, I feel like it was a misdirect. Like, I want to know about Hackworth Sr. too. I feel like that's an important clue.
Yeah, and I mean, it's possible Brad is withholding on purpose because he has an ulterior motive. But
the way it was presented, it felt like he was withholding because it's traumatic and he doesn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, and that's definitely kind of how I read it too. But again, I'm just putting it out there. We don't 100% know that we can trust Brad.
No, and Elliott certainly doesn't.
No.
Like, the first thing he says when he and Dani are alone is, don't trust him.
Don't trust that guy. But Dani does kind of trust him, and she feels a bit of a connection to him because of their shared, like, generational trauma.
Yeah.
Like, he has decided to be a different person than his dad because he hated his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And Dani gets that because she knows what it's like to have kind of a terrible parent.
I don't know. I don't understand Dani's logic.
She's
at all. So I can't. I feel like I can't comment on it.
I do. She's got a complicated relationship with her mother, and it's very much a kind of a love-hate thing because people are complicated and can hold multiple emotions at the same time about something.
That's true.
She is kind of resentful of her mom, and she's also kind of still really badly trying to get her mom back in her life and get her mom's approval. As you put it in a previous episode, what Dani's been searching for Maria her whole life is a mother, and she still wants that, even now, even in spite of everything. And it's very possible it's not something Maria can give her.
Possibly.
Because she hasn't up until this point.
Something did occur to me when she was talking with Brad about their relationships with their parent, or the problematic parent, that Brad stopped going into the fortress as soon as he was old enough to say no.
Yeah.
Which is when he was about 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help but wonder if maybe Maria was a much better mother until she met Archer. I'm just playing what if. Like, what if she wasn't always terrible? What if she was a good mother and to a point, and that's what Dani is trying to get back?
It's hard to say, especially because Maria has, in this book, gone on record saying, I didn't even want to have kids. Archer talked me into it.
Fair enough.
So how far back is Archer in her life? Predating Dani.
Predating Dani. But that doesn't mean that Archer made her do terrible things. Assuming that Archer makes her do terrible things. I am speculating crazy far at this point. But you know what I mean? Like, maybe at one point Maria was being good mom?
Well, she was at least a sufficient mom. But remember that she also had this extended crime family around her for as far as she can remember.
That's true. Found family is just as much love as real family.
Rabbit's been there. Mia's been there. Even Elliott's been there for a long time. So she wasn't just raised by Maria.
Oh, no.
She was raised by a little village.
Absolutely.
Yeah. At any rate, Brad does eventually, as you mentioned, take his leave with Rose, and that leaves Elliott and Dani a moment to chat. They do so in the main room, but Dani deliberately positions herself so she's not facing Archer's portrait because she's still rattled by what happened earlier.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to look at it either at that point.
Yeah, and she's still feeling weird about it.
And it's still creepy.
Yeah. Elliott tries to have a conversation with her here. Like, he tries to get a little personal, And Dani basically shuts him down. Number one, it's not the right place.
Exactly. They're standing in the middle of the gallery
Yeah.
being looked at by cameras. This is not the time, dude.
Not the time, not the place. Also, she's still upset at him
Well, yeah.
and doesn't want to have this conversation with him right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the big old, like, number 2
Yeah.
bullet point. She
So-
doesn't want to talk to him.
So she keeps it very professional and just like points out a number of the more valuable pieces of art that they should consider putting additional security on.
Yeah.
Including the Archer portrait.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually, just to circle back a little bit, she mentions when Brad and Rose are in the room too. And she kind of passes it off as, oh, well, we'll put a little extra security on this one just as like one of the random ones, but especially because it's the one that you're interested in, Rose.
It felt like that was a nod to Rose. Like,
Yeah.
we know you want this piece. We're going to make sure it's protected.
And Rose kind of turns that back on Brad and is like, yeah, I'll bid on it unless you're rethinking your gifting policy. And Brad's like, look, we both know the stipulation with the law at the moment. You have to buy it. And she's like, I know. Considering how hard I fought to actually keep the will intact, the least I can do is follow the rules now.
The legalese on this will must have just been...
Well, it was pretty ironclad.
Crazy.
The loophole they found was that they could sell it, but apparently that's about it. But that pretty much takes us to the end of the chapter for the most part.
Pretty much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot to chew on in there, but...
Yeah, the whole visit sort of ends with Dani having to look at the portrait again to, like, really cement it in her mind so that she can forge it later, and it's still being super creepy.
Yeah, it's creepier than she remembers it the first time, for sure.
Yeah, and, like, her leaving because she's worried that if she keeps looking at it, it will look back at her again, and, like, yeah.
And she doesn't want that.
No, that is a bad vibe painting all the way around.
Yeah, it's super haunted.
I would feel the same.
Indeed.
There's one more little thing I wanted to bring up because it may or may not be relevant later. I feel like it might be. Dani comments on the collections, I say with air quotes around them. And she compares the curator's house to the Fortress of Art.
You even pointed this out last chapter. They're very similar in many ways.
Yeah, and Dani recognized it as a collection that had like a magical flow to it, very similar to the fortress. But her comparison was that the curator's house was very like warm and comfortable, and the Fortress of Art was not.
It was very
like,
cold.
Very cold, very business, very...
Yeah,
right?
and that even speaks to, as she thinks, the motivations behind the collections. Because when it came to Roxy and her manor, it's like a weird selfless collection. She's brought together things that she instinctively knows other people are going to want down the road.
Yeah, things that belong together for a purpose.
Even if she
right?
doesn't necessarily know what that purpose is immediately.
Exactly.
Whereas Hackworth's is a very selfish collection. It's a very cold, it's very impersonal, and it's all focused on him.
Yeah.
And him not being at the center of it almost makes it feel kind of empty in a way.
Yeah. Weird, right?
Yeah.
It was like a collection of love versus a collection for power. And that was the stark contrast between those two vibes, you know?
For sure.
And I can't help but wonder if that is going to play into this later.
Good.
Right?
It might be a helpful clue for Dani as she plans her heist. Maybe she'll be planning that heist next chapter. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, they better get on it. They're running out of
Yeah,
time.
they are running out of time. Next chapter is chapter 12. You'll want to read up on that in time for next week. In the meantime, as always, you can give us a little rating and a review.
Because we appreciate those very much.
Yeah, you can also send us messages via social media.
Absolutely. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Goodreads, and Blue Sky. We are at The Read Along on most of those.
You can also send us an email.
Oh, yes, please. You can find us at thereadalong@gmail.com.
And with that said, as always, we love you very much, and we'll see you next time.
TikTok, Dani.
Thank you for joining us on The Read Along with your hosts, Anita and Scott Bourgeois. All Read Along music is by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. Cover art is by Aaron Beaver. Be sure to join us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Read Along, and check out our group on Goodreads.com.